Welcome back to my channel. It's G here, and guess what? I have a special guest on Zoom or Skype or whatever we're recording. This is Bako, and we are going to be talking about dating, living our lives as Black women abroad, and what that's like, and kind of trying to explore the question of, are Black women more desirable outside of the United States? So if you guys have not already, subscribed to my channel, and let's get into this discussion with my special guest. I can't wait.
Hello, everyone.
Hello. So, you grew up in the US, right?
Yes. Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah. And like, how many countries have you dated in outside of the United States?
Oh, how many countries have I dated in? So I lived in Japan, so I dated in Japan. I'm living in Spain. I've dated in Spain. I've dated in Italy. I've dated in Scotland. I've dated in London, the UK, England. Um, Indonesia. Indonesia. Dated as in I've been on dates with men, right? Not multiple, not consecutive, obviously, in every place, but I've been on dates with men. Am I missing any? I feel like I'm missing
Turkey.
Oh, that's the biggest one. Turkey. I'm missing Turkey. Yeah, Turkey. At least it has to be at least 6 or 7 places.
Right. So, I mean, and that's a pretty broad range. Like, that's broad, very different cultures, very different types of men, very different types of experiences. So, one of the things, like, as Black women, when we date broadly, that's what I would say, because you're not just dating white men, right? Like, there's a broad perspective. You know, like, everyone's always focused on white and black.
Yeah.
You know what I mean? And there's so much more than that in the world. What would you say, I guess, in comparison to being in the United States, like, what would you say is like the biggest benefit of dating in other countries?
I will say, in my experience, the options for dates are in abundance. Like, I'm not in a shortage of men who want to date me or talk to me or meet me. Or I'm not, like, in the US, I feel like I went 2 years without dating, right? I wouldn't have options. It wouldn't be, I wouldn't have guys knocking on my door, like, not, you know what I'm saying? Like, my dating apps, I would get matches, but no one was asking me out. We would just be we'd match, and then nothing would happen. Nothing would come from it. And that's partly, I think, maybe because there's so much competition in the US in terms of like what we're looking for, the quality of guy that we want, and the amount of successful Black women who are in the same boat looking for the same quality of men. It's like a battle, right? It's like the Hunger Games. Okay. So I think the having more options, but that also comes with changing my expectations of what I'm looking for in terms of like what they have to have. In the US.
So tell me that, like, what has changed about your expectations?
So in the US, you had to have a car, you had to have your own place, had to make 6 figures, you know, you had to have a college degree, you had to have these 4 things at minimum. In the rest of the world, it doesn't necessarily work like that. Not everyone goes to college in a lot of these places. Doesn't mean they're not successful, but the idea of success is different, right? In a lot of countries, people live at home until they're married. That is the norm. So me thinking like you gotta have your own place, 70% of people, whatever, don't have their own place. So I'm just not gonna date if that's an expectation. People don't drive cars. I don't have a car, so I can't expect anyone to have a car if I don't have a car, right? People live with roommates. In America, it was like, are you a kid? Are you in college? What am I doing right now? I'm living with a roommate. So, my expectations have to shift a little bit based on the culture, right? People are not going to make as much money as we make in the U.S. 6 figures is unheard of. If someone makes 6 figures here, they're rich, which 6 figures is middle class in the U.S.
Exactly. No, and that's the big thing. Like, when I was living in France, and you know, when I left my job by then, but before I was making mid 6 figures, And they considered me rich. And I was like, I'm not rich. I work every day for my money. You know what I mean? Like, I'm not, you know. So I think that is a big thing when you, and actually I have had to level set for myself, because when I considered looking for a real job, I was like, I am not getting out of my bed for this amount of money. You know what I mean? So, and obviously I decided not to do that anyway. But I think that one of the stereotypes, especially when Black women date other ethnicities, is that we're willing to accept less. You know what I mean?
Okay.
And they always kind of will kind of be like, well, you wouldn't have dated specifically a Black man, you know, American Black man, for if he didn't have these things or that thing or whatever.
And
But
you're right.
I think what you're saying, I think what you're saying actually, when you get outside of the culture of America, because I don't think if you were dating in America, the criteria would be the same for any ethnicity.
Exactly. It's not about Black or white in America. It's about American, so the what you need to survive in America, the amount of money you need to make to be successful in America, right? So
Right.
that is not the same in other countries.
Exactly.
I make 5 times less than what I made in America. I'm
Yeah.
living a better life than I did in America because of the flexibility, the freedom, the amount of time I have to enjoy, you know, my life. The cost of living is much cheaper. So I can't expect someone to make 6 figures in Spain. I don't make 6 figures in Spain, right? I know what the average income is. I know what you need to make to be able to take care of yourself. I know what you need to make to be able to, you know, have a family. So we need to be in that ballpark, but it's nowhere near $100,000. It's
Right.
not even $30,000. You know, it's like it's not even. So it's completely different.
It is completely different. Now, one of the things that you mentioned when you were talking about dating the States and kind of like competition versus the abundance that like outside of the US. Like, do you think, and I don't know, like I think you were probably pretty open in the US as well, like to other, like, you know,
Other minorities. I would never date an American white guy.
you would not date an American white
No.
guy. Okay.
Other minority, any minority.
Okay. Now, do you think that colorism played a bigger part in the US versus outside of the US in your dating experience?
100% the US. 100%. I get more. I feel like the darker you are as a Black woman, the more attention you get outside of traveling. Like especially when I'm with my friends, and they're all pretty. We're all pretty girls, I believe, and but I'm the darkest. I'm usually the darkest person, but I get a lot of attention. Maybe more so than some of them in different places. So I think, and the natural hair thing too. Like it's like they love like if they like Black women, they like a Black woman, like what they think is like African, you know.
Yeah.
And I can't say that's for everybody, and that's a general statement. But from my experience, I have gotten a lot more attention and a lot more compliments for being the shade that I am and having my natural hair than I ever got in America.
That concept where you, as a darker skinned person, are just generally not as desirable doesn't really translate outside, right? And so I think that what they say though is they'll be like, oh, but are they fetishizing you? And like they always try to bring it down. You know what I mean?
They always want to knock us down. Like we can't just be desirable women. Like Black women just can't be the ish, you know. Which is crazy. I'm gonna say this: there are always gonna be guys who fetishize you. That's in America as well. That could be any country. There's gonna be somebody to fetishize, like they fetishize Asian women. You know, they fetishize Latina women. You know, there's always gonna be
Black women as well. When they talk about their physical aspect, butts and this, that, and the other, that's fetishizing as well. And but for whatever reason, they don't consider it that.
Because they're Black, then it can't be. But you're gonna run into that everywhere. And it's pretty easy to weed those guys out, right? Because I get it. There's always gonna be that guy like, I've never had a Black or I've never been with a black woman, or uh, is it true what they say about black? Like those comments that they say, they can't help themselves because they're not thinking of you in a serious capacity anyway. So they spit these things out, and right away you're like, oh, okay, I catch you. I know what you're about, and you delete it.
Right, and like can exist within your own ethnicity regardless, right? Like men who are after sex and just sex and whatever, like that's a common trait
Right.
across the world. But I think the ability to date and kind of have multiple options,
Yes.
that's what makes a difference, right? Like being able to say, you know what, you suck, but I got 10 more people lined
Right.
up waiting to see if they don't suck.
Right. So there's that. Like I said, there's no shortage of men to talk to and date, right?
Mm-hmm.
And it's easy. You have to weed out. Like dating is trash around the world. Like it's not even like the dating is so much better. It's just that you have options and you can sort of weed through more people as opposed to in the US. I don't have any options. I'm like, I've been on dating apps. It's not going anywhere. So I'm not really dating. Here I'm dating more. And also I feel like there's a actual culture like in the US, guys want you to do the work now. It seems like I'm asking you out and they want me to pay. If I'm like, I don't understand where this is coming from. Like I'm not asking you out, I'm not paying. And that's probably part of the reason I'm not dating either, because a lot of women were like, I don't care, I don't mind paying and I don't mind asking them out. I'm not that girl. I'm not paying for the first couple days.
Right.
That's just it.
And like seriously, relationship. Like after the first year, maybe I'll pay something.
All right, I'm not that hard. I don't go that hard.
I got you on your birthday, boo. I got you on your birthday for sure, even the first year. But until I know that you in there, I can't take you out.
Right. I
You
mean,
know,
so like my premise, my idea is that on the third date, I'm sort of I like you enough that I want to spend time with you, and you've shown me that you are interested in me, in some capacity. So I'm okay with paying, but there needs to be some effort put forth by the guy first, and I've experienced that guys in other places that I've dated don't have the expectation that I'm paying, you know, so and they ask you out, they
and
they
that's a big
they
thing, right?
ask you
So
out.
that's not just options. That's somebody who's willing to make an investment,
Right.
right? And it doesn't seem that in the United States, especially now, men are willing to invest anything
Mm-mm.
time, energy, money, nothing, right? And there's no pursuit.
No, there's none. There's none.
So, I mean, like, and like, that's a big deal because it sounds like you feel pursued.
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
I feel coveted. Like I'm a prize, which is nice because in the US, like you're just any old random girl, right? You just like everybody else. But it's good to feel like a prize, to
Right.
be honest.
And
Like,
let's be honest, like there's plenty of black women in Europe. It's not like that you are the only black, like maybe in Japan, but
yeah,
like you know what I mean? It's not like throughout Europe there are not African women kind of in abundance.
right.
So the fact that you are a black woman, there are other black women who are having more positive experiences outside of the United States with meeting men, with dating, with like the ability to feel like you have options really speaks volumes to me, right? Like I think that when um I mean, I dated in the US. I dated American white men too, so don't judge me.
I mean, hey, do you? I'm not judging anybody. You do what you want to do. For me, it was just a no. I don't.
I can
It's too
understand.
much.
I completely understand that. But I feel like I probably put people through the ringer. Like you have to earn it
Right.
either way. So I think that's what's important. And I think that one of the things that when we start talking about dating and we see when I like right now when I see black women in the United States and like I hear what's going on, like Heaven Kitten Hill Samuels, like all of those kind of like weird people. I'm like, why are y'all dealing with this? Do you know like how completely absurd.
Let's say you hate Black women. Like, I feel like all of it really comes down to the racism and like wanting to be where white men are, and I guess having to put down Black women to reach that attainment, like to reach that level. Because a lot of times these guys who only date white women because that's supposed to be like the prize, right? The white woman is the prize. So to compete with these white men, you have to have this trophy, which is, it's trash. It's the idea is trash, but it's all rooted in the system of racism and oppression that we've dealt with for 400 plus years. I mean, psychologically, Black people in the U.S. are pretty effed, pretty effed up.
No,
Like,
I mean, the PTSD is huge, and I think that what bothers me the most, I think about it, is how Black women settle for things because they don't think they have other options.
that struggle of that people be talking about, I don't want it.
Mm-mm. And I think that's what's important. And like, you know what? I don't know very many women, maybe just one or two, who dated, I guess, maybe financially or educationally down
Mm-hmm.
when they dated outside their culture. I don't know that many people who did. You know what I mean? Just a few, that come front of mind.
Okay.
But they're happy because they feel loved and they feel, appreciated. And for some people, that's all that they need,
Right.
right? Like you have that love, you have that appreciation because they don't necessarily get it from the people in the US. You know what I
Right.
mean? They never saw it or they never seen what that looked like. And I mean, like, that's one of the saddest things for me because I feel like I have seen lots, especially Black women, who have felt that way. And then you get put in a position where it's just like, I'll accept any old thing.
Yeah. It's really sad. I'd rather be single and happy than to be in a relationship with somebody who I'm not happy with or who I just settled to be with. I don't, the word settled, we don't speak that word. Like, I feel like you can find what you're looking for. You're not going to find a man that meets every criteria, right? But as long as someone who treats you right, who makes you feel loved and safe, and can and meets some of the criteria that you're looking for, I think everyone can find that.
I agree.
Sometimes you have to look outside the box though, because the problem I think with a lot of Black women, we're too loyal to Black men. Like, we have been like, and I was one of them. I was like, I want a Black man. I'm only dating Black men. I'm only doing Black men for like a majority of my life. And then when I got to Japan, I mean, there was no Black, there was no Black man. So I had to, like, either I'm going to date somebody else or I'm just going to be here looking real crazy with this bullet. Like, that's it.
So let me ask you this. What was that the spark just because you were outside of the US and kind of like, if I don't, then I'm not. You know what I mean? Like,
I mean, that's when I dated like other minorities in the US. But my relationships were Black men.
okay.
And then I went to Japan and I was like, I want to date. So I'm gonna have to be open to the idea of other people. And when I traveled, because I traveled a lot before I moved to Japan, I did go out on dates with, that was like the first time I dated a white person, like white men, like went on dates with white men. And when I traveled to Europe, because I got so many messages and I was like inundated with like a lot of messages. And I'm just like, wow, I don't know if this is going to be the same or different than a white person in America, but I'm going to give it a try. And it just, from that point on, I'll be like, okay, let me see if I can have conversations with them about race, because that's something I need to vet in the beginning to see where their mind is at. And if they were able to like dialogue and I felt like they understood or, so could understand where I was coming from, then we would move forward. But I think my issue with the American white men is that some of them may be able to dialogue and have the conversation, but it's the family members might, you know, you might have some family members that on some stuff. Right. If we looking at Trump, how many white men? What was the percentage? Like 60% of white men voted for Trump. So like, I'm good.
No, I can understand that. So, what do you think, like, okay, in your travels, where has been your best dating experience?
Turkey. Turkey. Woo, child. Them Turkish men are not playing.
You're moving to Turkey next.
Listen, you know what? I can't see myself living there. Like, I didn't get to feel like this is the place I would love to live. But I mean, I felt like Beyonce. Like, like, and the good thing about the Turkish men is like they're aggressive or assertive, but it wasn't like I wasn't afraid. It wasn't like I fear sometimes in the U.S. to not give my number out because people get killed, women get beat up by black men or by people who's supposed to protect us. And so in the U.S. I'm giving my number to everybody because I would delete you, block you, whatever after the fact, after I make it up. But in Turkey, like you would just say, no, I'm not interested, or you just, be like, no, I'm good. And eventually they leave you alone. I didn't feel afraid, but I did like the fact that they wanted to like take me out. Like, what are you doing right now? Let's go to lunch. Like, can I call you? Can I take you to see this restaurant or to see this view? Like, they were like immediately on it.
Yeah.
So it felt good. It just felt good to be walking down the street and getting pulled left to right. It was it was overwhelming. It was overwhelming.
Yeah.
Because I've never been like someone who would talk to multiple men at one time because I'd be forgetting information. But like I'm on the dating app and I'm like this, I got like 9 messages. And I'm like, well, who said what? I got to decide who I'm going to go on a date with today. Like it was hard to sort of like organize because of so much, but I had a good time and I had some amazing dates.
I just that that thing where it reinforces that yes, Black women are desirable absolutely anywhere you show up. I mean, I was telling someone when I lived in France, I was married, but I would go down the street and like the vendors would give me like free strawberries and like, they would just like every day someone would tell me I was beautiful. And there's plenty of Black women in France. You know what I mean? Black women would tell me I was beautiful. So it was like one of those things where you're like, wow, it is a different experience when people are not afraid or intimidated or whatever it is, because even if you think someone else is beautiful, you're fine with telling them that, and as another woman, So I really do understand like that kind of feeling of I'm comfortable, I feel safe, I feel appreciated, just being able to walk down the street. And then also, despite all of those things, not be in fear that if I tell you no, that you're going to follow me home and kill me.
Right. Or just beat me up on the scene.
Or something.
Yeah.
Me out as I'm walking down the street, whatever it is. So I don't know. I think that's interesting because as I've been, started my channel and kind of talking about like just thinking outside of the way we are in the United States and that kind of experience, dating is a big part of that. Who you meet, the interaction, like it's a huge part of knowing that you're accepted in a place somehow. You know what I mean? And it's crazy when you, like what you were saying, like just walking down the street, you're getting all this attention, pulls in different directions, but also you feel safe. And I think that's the thing too.
Right. And I think people need to realize there's Black men abroad as well. Like there's definitely Black men abroad. I've met Black men here, like in different countries. So it's not just that we're coming abroad to date other men. No, the Black men, a lot of them are from Africa, and a lot of African men are raised to want relationships and be in relationships and getting married and have children. Culturally, that's what's expected. So they're not just playing around. Like there's a lot of them, a lot of players everywhere, but a lot of African men want family, want relationships. So if that's what you're looking for, if you just want Black men, you can still find Black men abroad.
It's just like, yes, that's the thing that people think when you're abroad, you're only looking at dating others. Well, they only think when Black women date out is white men. What is a bigger thing is culture, and this is what I was going to say. One of the things that I keep hearing over and over again is people think, American men think that their perspective is global.
No.
Like that perspective of not paying for dates, not, getting married, having multiple baby mamas, all of the things. They think that's global.
Yeah, and
And
it's not.
one of the things that I find very funny, especially because Black men will be like, nobody wants a woman like this, or nobody wants a woman. And like, no, that's not necessarily true. That's you and your acceptance of white supremacy's
Right.
definition of life. Let's just sum it up like that. And I think that this is a conversation that's important. And, like we need to like let women know it's not standard.
To go to your point, the crazy part about the idea that the like black men accept this like patriarchal idea,
We
but
almost
accepting this idea, this patriarchal idea that has been brought about by white supremacy, right? A lot of the white men, not all, but a lot of white men provide fully or can provide fully for the family that they have, right? Based because it's a system where black men weren't given equal opportunity. I get it, but you can't want to be this, like you can't have this idea that you can't live up to, because if in most households, most black households, both the man and the wife are working,
right.
so we making the same money, we paying the bill, we splitting the bills 50-50, but you want to be able to dominate, like it's a little different.
No,
You know what I'm saying? So it's tricky.
and but you know what? And let's talk about that just for 1 second. A lot of times, even those men, those white men that they think are dominating, the women are the women are really in charge.
Exactly.
And they don't know that. And they keep thinking that white women are so docile and submissive and this, that, and the other. And that is not true. So it's just one of those things where, that stereotype of softness that they think exists in the way they think it exists does not even exist
Right.
in those spaces. So I don't know, girl. But I'm going to talk about that one day.
It's a mess over there in the U.S. They can keep it. They can keep
it. For sure. Well, I want to thank you so much for sharing some of your experience. Yeah, so I really think I think this is just an important vision for people. So I appreciate you sharing your experience and some time with me. And I want to thank everybody who watched and subscribed to the channel. And I think that was good. If you guys got questions, come down in the comments. Let's have chats. And ciao, ciao for now.
Bye-bye.